Hey there, this is Andrea with the ADS Agency, and today we're chatting about the one thing. We've done an hour-long conversation about the one thing last year with our friend, actually it was just a little over last year, with our friend David Patterson. So I'll link to that video for you. It was an excellent conversation and a fun one. You really should watch that, while you're like cleaning or something. So I love this book and I just wanted to remind you about it. The One Thing. It is a book that I often reference back to, and I'm just going to go through some highlights from chapter 18, which is called The Journey. They always start each chapter with a quote, and this one is, "To get through the hardest journey, we need take only one step at a time, but we must keep on stepping." And so what I like about the One Thing book is there's so many things, and it makes so much sense when you read it, of course. But it's the fact that at any given time, towards a goal that you have, there's one thing that you can do that is the most important thing at any given time. And if we are to concentrate on that next most important thing and knock that out, that means the next most important thing after that becomes even easier. And that's really how you progress towards momentous action towards achieving a very big dream or goal. One thing in here that I really like is that in this chapter, I'm just reading a couple things that I like that I highlighted in here for you. It says, "It's only when you can imagine a bigger life that you can ever hope to have one," which is true. But another thing that they talk about in this chapter is that extraordinary results require you to go small. So again, thinking about those one most important task that you have, there's always one very most important task that you can choose towards any given goal that you can do right now today that will help you progress as much as possible towards achieving that goal, which is fantastic. They have the fear versus faith story in here, which I super love. I was just talking about that on my Instagram channel, which is basically there's two wolves going at it all the time within you. A granddad was telling his grandson this story, and one wolf is faith and one wolf is love. You can also call that faith. The other was fear. And love and fear are going at it all the time within you. And the grandson says to his granddad who's telling him the story, which one wins? If they're fighting all the time, which one wins? And the granddad said, the one that you feed. Very true. And I think that's a very big obstacle for a lot of us who are going after our goals and dreams. Either we're operating in a mindset and spirit of love and faith in our journey, or we're operating in a space of fear. And that's where things like analysis paralysis can come into play, and all these excuses that we put in our path that tell us, oh, okay, well, before I actually get to that one most important task that I know I need to do, let me do all this other stuff and beat around the bush and everything. We do that. We sabotage our own selves. So I thought that was good. It also, in this chapter, goes through what do people say when they're dying? When they're at the end of their lives, what do they say? And I think the number one biggest thing people talk about is regret. What do people regret doing that they wish they would have done with their life? And that's the point, is to not have regrets, to live your life in such a way that you won't have regrets, or that you minimize them as much as possible towards the end. This guy asked, let's see here, it says, Bronnie Ware's 2012 book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, looked at people's questions like that, and there are common themes that people had. People said, I wish that I'd let myself be happier. I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. And I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And then there's one that stood out above them all. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So essentially, half-filled dreams and half-filled hopes are the biggest regret of people's lives. So the point is to have no regrets. So if we do every day what matters most, and we know what matters most, everything makes sense. And that is part of the big premise of the One Thing book, is identifying those things that actually matter most at the end of the day when we really think about it. So there's that. And lastly, it talks about how success is an inside job. I love this story also because it talks about a little boy who really wanted to spend time with his dad, and his dad was so busy. And so what he did was he was like, okay, he tore up this piece of newspaper and he said, when you finish putting this back together, then we'll play or we'll hang out or whatever. And so 5 minutes later, the little boy comes back and he's like, Daddy, I'm all done. And his father was like astonished because he'd ripped this newspaper all to pieces. And he was like, how'd you get that done so fast? And he said, well, at first it was hard, but there was a glass table he was working on. And he said, I could see under the glass that there was a man, a picture of a man, I think in a world or something, maybe. There's a picture of a man. Oh, here it is. It's right here. I could just read it to you. He said, it was easy, Dad. I couldn't do it at first, and I started to give up. It was so hard, but then I dropped a piece on the floor, and because it's a glass top table, when I looked up, I saw that there was a picture of a man on the other side, and that gave me an idea. When I put the man together, the world just fell into place. And so in this narrative, in this chapter, they use that as an example that the world, our worlds fall into place when we put ourselves together. Success is an inside job. It's working on us, which is a theme that has been playing out so much for me this week. I was just telling you yesterday on my personal channel about my dad's sermon yesterday, which was about working on me. A lot of New Year's resolutions are about working on ourselves. And this, talking about how success is an inside job, is putting ourselves together. And a lot of that is this mentality, working with our own mentality and realizing that our dreams and what we want to focus on has a lot to do with our attitudes and how we feel. One last thing I'll recommend to you before I go is this book. I wasn't planning on talking to you about this book, but I reference it a lot. And you can see it's very faded because I've had it a long time. But it's Marianne Williamson's A Return to Love. And in this book, I was just reading in this earlier this morning for my own meditation purposes. And I highlighted this because I super love this. And this goes with what we were talking about too. It says, when we awaken from the dream that we are finite, isolated creatures and recognize that we are glorious, infinitely creative spirits, we awaken from the dream that we are weak and accept that the power of the universe is within us. And that is what it means to accept love in our life, to accept a mentality of love over fear, faith over fear, just like those two wolves battling inside of us all the time. One wolf is faith or love, and the other is fear. And so which one wins within us? Both great books. For sure, get the One Thing book. And also, if you're into it, A Return to Love. I super love that. I reference it all the time. It's great. And that's it for today. Again, I'll link to the chat about the One Thing with David Patterson. You can listen to that in your own time. And otherwise, if you've read the One Thing, talk to me about it. Let me know what some of your biggest takeaways were from the book. I love the domino effect. I love so many other metaphors and all of that in this book. It's super great. All right, cheers. And if you like this video, please be sure to like it. Also, you can subscribe to us on my personal channel, Miss ADS08, or on the business channel, The ADS Agency. The links are below. And otherwise, have a great one. Mwah.